Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Family EV podcast. It's that time of day when Jon and Joe have run out of things to do, and we force you to listen to us for a period of hopefully no more than 30 minutes because Joe's got stuff to do today. Would that include getting a haircut, my friend? Mine's just unkempt, but you're looking decidedly 1970s.
It's happening this week, finally. It's been 2.5 months.
You're starting to look almost European, my friend. I think I wasn't a fan of when it was short cropped, but it was definitely a preference.
Well, at least I'm back on this podcast. I was temporarily removed for a week.
You were removed. You know what? You weren't there, but your content was, because obviously you and I had done 2 recordings at that point, and just everything was going wrong with the platform. And I feel really bad because I'd recommended this platform to a good friend of mine for his podcast literally the very same day. And then so we had a glitch and we learned a few things, which is if your browser's giving you trouble, don't restart it, because then it overlaid and it was a thing. We have a special guest on today's podcast, which is, if you can see it, you can only see the back of his head right now. This is a little 3-week-old puppy that we have at the house. And he's not been feeling too well. He grew very quickly. He's what we call going a little bit flat. And so he has to be kept on his side, which means he has to be strapped to somebody at all times. And as Joe knows, while we were doing the setup, he took a little while to settle, but he's settled now. So he's in his blankie. He's wrapped against me. He's on his side, and he's going to be very, very comfortable. What you can't see is that I'm wearing a T-shirt that says "Only God Can Cancel Me," which I think is a fantastic phrase, by Michael Lear. Michael, I wouldn't say he was a close friend of mine, but he was a mentor, an inspiration, an occasional friend. He was a comedian out of LA and then later out of Austin. You'll know him as I've forgotten his character's name right now. What's his? It's completely gone up my head. Anyway, go to my Instagram, my personal one, the comedy one, British John Comedy, and it's going to be pinned in it. By the time this goes live, it'll be pinned, and there's a link to his merch, and it goes to supporting his family. He had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and as he wonderfully said to me, he said, "I keep pouring cold water over me, and I don't feel any fucking better." He had a sense. He was, oh man, it was absolutely amazing. Anyway, he passed a couple of weeks ago, and they're raising money through a sale of T-shirts from his old merch channel. And we don't want your money, but we would be very grateful if you would go and buy some of his merch. And a T-shirt that says "Only God Can Cancel Me" is just awesome. The looks, I headlined in California for the first time, Joe. Not my first time headlining, but my first time headlining where I live. Kind of ironic. Just tells you everything about being in a woker and not being a woke comic. Yeah. And if we do have anybody in the Bay Area, any listeners in the Bay Area, then I will be performing at Rooster Tea Feathers Comedy Club on March the 8th. So again, links in bio from my Instagram, British John Comedy, no H in John. In news today, Joe, because it's not all about puppies and T-shirts, it has been an interesting kind of 10 days since we last recorded this. We were late recording because of, winter, basically, and either his winter or my winter, and storms coming through right now. It's absolutely crazy. But it has been an interesting week. I think, Joe, I don't know if you agree with me, I think the biggest news of the week, I was blown away. They sold 9 Mazda MX-30s in January. That is, I mean, that's huge.
It's. I mean, I've never been. I would say at the bottom, like I would say from my heart, I'm a Ford guy, but I don't know anyone that's that brand loyal that'll say I refuse to buy a different brand, so I'm going to take the car that they have. And that's really the only people buying the Mazda. Clearly, there are 9 Mazda brand loyal people in the state of California. That's what we have found out.
We had the opportunity, and I lost his phone number. So, by the way, if you listen to this, put yourself in the comments so I can get in touch with you. I met one of the owners a Mazda MX-30 owner at my Electrify America charger. It must have been just before Christmas, I think. And he loves it, but he uses it. It's just a glorified Leaf to him. He knows it can only do 100 miles, but that's fine. And it replaces his runaround vehicle. And he's always liked Masters. And I mean, the interior is lovely. It's a lovely interior.
For sure, it is very nice. I just have the hardest time imagining paying that much money for that little range.
For that little range and capability, when you look at that versus a Bolt, it makes no sense. But if you want, you and I have talked about this in the past. I've been, so by the way, my ID4 is back. And I will say,
is it still blue? Did they paint it the right color?
Well, it didn't need paint. Thankfully, it didn't need paint because they just replaced because of the way I'd done the damage. They didn't have to paint the car; they only had to paint the panel.
Oh, okay.
The replacement panel that turned up, the driver's front quarter, it's great. So in my downstairs right now in the garage, and we'll work out what to do with these. I have the the front left headlight assembly, with the exception of the front lens. So I have the whole light, but the bit that's right at the front, which does nothing but just make it, it's the bit you would touch if you're touching the headlight, is that bit. I'm going to see if I can replace that. I don't know what I'm going to do. The headlight assembly is huge. These LED, because they move, right? The headlights.
Because they're cornering lights,
Wow, just the weight of this thing. This is not unsubstantial. So I asked them if the insurance company didn't mind, could I hold on to that? And they said that's fine. I have, and then I have a wheel because they gave me a replacement wheel because of the damage that was done to it, but it was really only scratches. So I have an extra wheel. So I'm going to decide what to do with it. Obviously, having different front and rears, it's pain in the ass. But
I have
anyway,
3 extra tires still laying around. They all have about 10,000 miles of meat still on them. No idea what I'm going to do with them because I need to convince someone that has a first edition that they need them.
I'll take care of that problem for you.
But how do I get them out to you? That's the major problem.
You put them in your trunk. That's what you're going to do. You're going to put them in your trunk. I'll meet you halfway. We'll work that one out later. You okay, buddy?
So back to the MX-30s. So I've always been fascinated with like the i3 Rex, and I'm interested in this MX-30 Rex that's going to be eventually coming here because I used to drive a Volt, and it would go, about 50 miles, and back then I had a 55-mile commute. So I was always wanting like that little bit extra mileage out of the vehicle. And so an i3 Rex was almost a car I purchased at one point. And I'm interested to see, how the MX-30 Rex will be. That might actually be not that bad of a vehicle when you consider it takes away the range anxiety for people that are uncomfortable going full electric, but it has enough miles that should take care of 99% of daily commutes and running to the store and running to wherever they might have to go with that. Because what is it, about 150 miles, is it? Or 100, not 110?
100.
Only 100? Okay. Well, either way, still.
I think it's 100 if you drive like a nun. Look, ladies and gentlemen, let's cut to the chase here. We all know what Joe wants to do. Joe's looking for any excuse he can to say the word wankle. That is right now. He's just like, he's limbering up for it. He wants to make a big entrance with it. He's been trying to, how can I get this word into
I like all cars, and I've always wanted an RX-7, and that won't do well on the channel. This is my way. This is the MX-30 is the RX-7 of this generation. That's what it is.
That's you're sticking with that as a thing, is it? So by way of answer, look, I don't know. There you go, buddy. There you go. He's gone to sleep. I don't know how much of a range extender it's going to be, and let me qualify that. Because remember, the range extender, as with the Volt, the Volt wasn't so much a range extender as it used a 2-liter.
It was a proper engine, yeah, and it powered the wheels.
But he went through the battery still. He was a generator,
right? But I mean, like there was never a loss of power In other words, like with the i3,
No,
the Rex was known to not supply adequate
yes.
amount of power.
Well, bear in mind, it was the engine out of a motorbike or even a
Scooter, yep.
scooter, actually. It came out of the C5. And it's so cold. I'm drinking. The weather's British, so I'm drinking a lot of tea. That is what's going on today. And by the way, anybody who wants to make a comment on the glasses, feel free. Yes, I know they look weird. It's because my child lost my last remaining good pair, and so these I bought from an Instagram advert for $12 as an emergency pair, and we have now entered the actual emergency area. So my new ones turn up this week. I'm stuck. So it'll be interesting because a Wankel engine is going to run at such an RPM rate that it's not. It's going to be like a generator. It's going to be
It's
like the
going to be
Volt.
thirsty.
It's going to be like, but it's a Volt attached to what is it, like a 45, 50 kilowatt battery? So I don't know, Joe. It's going to be. We'll see. I don't. It's a compliance car at the end of the day. That's all it is. It is a compliance car. It's not a bad looking vehicle, but just as a matter of thing. Let's talk about something more interesting, more that our listener might care about, which is the fact that the U.S. Treasury Department picked up the phone and called the EPA and said, "Hey, do you have any existing classification for what is or is not an SUV or a saloon?" And the EPA said, "Funny you should ask. Funny you should ask, but we've had this system in place for a little while, and lo and behold, instantly." A 5-seat Model Y and the Cadillac Lyriq became SUVs.
And I think and the
like
Mach-E as well, right? Because that was a big one that was.
And the Mach-E, or the Mach-E's issue isn't that it wasn't an SUV, is it was more than $55,000, and so it now fits in under the $80,000 number. So that is a win. It also means that I don't know if this actually is a thing. Technically, the rear-wheel drive variants of the ID4 are now SUVs, but the rear-wheel drive variant of the SUVs weren't that expensive to begin with.
Yeah, they were never over 55, but it future-proofs it, I guess, because this credit's around for quite a few years here coming. So,
well, that would be the hope. I'm now just very quickly looking at the pricing of an ID4.
So, I mean, the real question, I mean, I guess whatever, it's old news, but why did they ever even? It just makes no sense. Typical. Why did they ever not just use the EPA from day one?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, Joe, but I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the government doesn't always
logic
think things through before.
So, do you think this? Do you think this is retroactive? So, like anyone that bought
it's back to January the 1st. It's back to, if you bought a Lyriq, if you were one of the 112 people that bought a Lyriq.
Well, for a while, people were buying, Model Ys in January that were 60-some thousand, and we're not getting the credit in theory.
Yep. And they will now get a credit. They are very fortunate. They have been blessed. The most expensive ID4 rear-wheel drive you can buy is $51,500. So there you go.
Which is certainly, it's interesting because ours essentially was the most expensive. A first edition was completely loaded to the gills, and I was out the door at $49,000 way back then, a few years ago. So the price has escalated a little bit. I know there's some more options they put in it now, like a upgrade stereo.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I was, for one reason or another, I've been trying to find out. And by the way, somebody mentioned it in the comments, why the new ones, why the Chattanoogas charge differently. It's not just the software. Apparently, the battery chemistry is different, which is what allows them to go to 170, 180, 170 and something. I know Kyle was doing a cold weather video, a yo-yoed an ID4, and it went up very high, 170 and odd and change. Kyle, just document the charge curve so one of us doesn't have to. It's, it's a pain in the ass to borrow one. Anyway, I want to know what I want to see what the charge curve is. I think it's great they've got this massive thing to 170, but how is that sustained? What's the step down? But bottom line is, how quickly does it take to get to 50% or 120 odd miles? Real world miles, because that's the road tripping number. I'll come back to that in a minute. I just looked over my thing and found a long forgotten ODB dongle, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that one's for. I'm trying to find the one I want right now for a road trip. Did I send you one of mine?
No, I ended up I bought a V-Gate through Amazon. You sent me the link to it or whatever.
Cannot find my V-Gate.
Well, I have one,
anyway.
So I can always send it back your way if needed.
Yeah, and welcome to our personal call where we talk about this. So
yeah, I'll put it 3 tires and a V-Gate coming your way.
You know what? Put them in a flat rate box. Let's get our money's worth out of the USPS. No, I was looking at the idea. I was trying to find more than just the differences, and I was touched by the fact that they now have 3-zone automatic climate control. So I don't know how granular that is, because one of the things that annoyed me about the ID4, and apparently it's come up in the ID bus, is the only rear heating and cooling is on the floor. There's no vents. There's no roof vents. There's no B-pillar vents. It's all through the floor, but they do claim Climatronic 3-zone automatic climate control. So I'm intrigued. They made the rear seats heated, which they're not in the first edition. And oh yes, and of course the lighting. So I was following an ID4 home either yesterday night or the other night, and sure enough, I know the front lights, so the VW at the front's got the white light built into it, but I didn't realize that the rear one is permanently on as well, a permanent red VW at the back. It's like you're following a cheap German Cylon. Hey, buddy, you okay? Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's interesting how more brands have started following that. With the Nissan Leaf, you can get your Nissan badge illuminated. I'm not sure that I want to highlight the fact that I'm driving a Nissan.
Maybe if you want if that's not the advertisement of I'm single, I don't know what is. I didn't look Nissan fans. I'm sorry, it was a cheap joke. Anyhow, but yeah, no. So they've aligned with that. So yeah, all the cars that weren't are now they are, and naturally, of course, the first thing that Tesla went and did, I think it was like 36 hours later, they increased the price of the Model Ys by between $1,000 and $1,500. $1,500 on the long range, $1,000 on the performance.
Which they had done 500 earlier in the week as well, so it's 2,000 total of price increase.
But they also dropped the price of the Model 3 standard range by $500.
I didn't know that.
And I just wonder if that's a change of battery chemistry coming down, trying to clear out inventory. I don't know, or they're just reflecting a change in their cost structures. But all I know is that, and then of course, Ford changed their prices as well. Whether or not the dealers will follow through on that is a different question. I still find it amusing. I'm still, waiting for. I'm waiting for a model for a Lightning reservation to come through. But
I bailed from my Silverado and Blazer and Lightning. They're all gone. I actually hold no reservations at this time. I've just found that it's just easier to get a vehicle from a dealer at this point, is what it's becoming.
Yeah, well, I think we're getting through the supply chain issues. So,
it makes sense that the standard range got lowered a little bit when I think about it, just because so many other brands lowered the price of it. Like, so the Mach-E standard range got lowered as well. I know they're different cars slightly, but they do kind of a little bit cross compete, and the standard range got lowered to like 40-some thousand. So it makes sense for Tesla to try to move out some extra inventory. Because I looked at that in that EV CPO site a couple of days ago, and it looks like they're up to like 1,500 cars again.
Yeah, there's definitely some supply. So one thing we touched on, which I touched on because, the re-record of the re-record of the re-record, Tesla haven't announced, but it was in their app, and they've talked about it on other podcasts. I thought we'd just retouch on it, is that they now know how Tesla will be adding CCS to the superchargers. And that is something called the Magic Dog. And so if you, I'm not throwing a picture of it up on the thing, but go to electric, go to Inside EVs, just Google it, you'll see it. And basically, the CCS adapter is going to be built into the corner. And if you're a Tesla person, you'll just come in and pull. And you'll just get a regular Tesla connector. The understanding is if you want CCS, you'll go into the app, you'll select, the charging station you're at. If it's Electrify America, EVgo, wherever, your CCS, and it will unlock the CCS adapter. And that will just come down with, pre-locked to the Tesla supercharger.
Okay, so it's like attached to the handle. Interesting.
Yeah. So because obviously that's got a locking mechanism in it already, so it's just a double lock.
That's actually quite interesting. I thought Tesla would have taken advantage of this to really monetize the CCS adapters that are out there.
Well, what, they may. This is, Tesla's quite good at monetizing these things. They've got, the number of Model 3s, Model Ys I've seen around here in the Valley using Electrify America, because Electrify America is cheaper.
That's my plan, is to hopefully get a hold of one of these before I go on my trip.
I would say respectfully that they are, it is essential for your chip. And I also think it would pay for itself.
Right, quickly. Because Tesla, so the thing to note is Tesla works more like a typical fueling station. So every single location has different rates, and sometimes the peak hours are factored in. So one of my chargers up here is just like 30 cents a kilowatt hour all day long. But another one is like only 18 cents overnight, but 42 cents during peak hours in the middle of the day, and kind of varies depending on what time you plug in. So,
well, it's in line with the region that they're in's electric pricing.
Whereas EA is doing one flat rate statewide. Is how they're handling it. Which, by the way, they're pushing through some price increases.
Hold on. Don't bury the lead. We're going to go there next. There's a reason why we're talking about what we're talking about now, and we'll go there in a minute. Let's stick on the CCS. So just in terms of the CCS charger, is it your intention? And by the way, we don't carry, you'll notice this, dear listener, there's no links to anything from this podcast. That's not how we monetize it. We choose not to monetize this. Will you be paying $250 for a Tesla brand CCS adapter, or will you be spending $180 for a Electron CCS adapter, or something else?
So I'm partnered with Electron, so I will be using their product. So it does have a little bit of limit on speed, is my understanding with theirs. I think it's around like 100 or 120 kilowatts.
Well, it's 150, it says on their website. It says it's limited to 150. Although, interesting, it says it will still take 500 volts and 300 amps. So my math says that's where the 150 comes in.
So for me, it's limited because it's 500 volts. I'm at 400 volts, or actually a little bit less by the time I'm plugging in, like 380 or 390. So I'm going to be limited by the 300 amps.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I look forward to it. There's no timeline on this. Tesla usually doesn't make changes like this until they're getting ready to actually launch things. So we'll see what happens. I am actually going to be heading to San Diego in weekend of the 24th, 25th. My wife's birthday. Not for that reason, but we're doing a family thing. So they're flying out to Texas without me. Imagine that, Joe. My family going to Austin without me. There's something going on right at this point. There's something wrong.
The interesting thing about this, now that I think about it a little bit more, is this shows that Tesla must be profitable on supercharging, that they're willing to install the CCS connector into their chargers to essentially try to attract more people to come use them versus selling the adapter and trying to make the money off of the adapter sales.
Well, I don't think they're worried about So Elon, whether we like it or not, comes from Silicon Valley, and we are not a fan of one-time sales. The market does not give a damn about one-time sales. The market loves recurring revenue, loves it. It's a multiplier. You only achieve a 3 times X, three times revenue valuation for product sale company, but for a subscription sale, 11 times. And so I have to think that's part of it. What will be, and I know we've seen this happen in Europe. I've seen pictures in Europe of people parking diagonally. There are some vehicles where this is actually going to be a problem.
For sure.
Like my ID4, the ID4 charges on the wrong. It's great that it charges at the rear,
Wrong door.
but it charges at the rear on the
I
wrong
think the
side.
Mach-E is going to be one of the worst because it's right by the driver's door. People are really going to have to twist to get in there because it's on the driver's side door. So that's the wrong side when you're pulling in, and the cord's just not going to reach that way. Because it's on when you're pulling in with the Mach-E. That's the same way as us backing in.
Yeah, well, it's the same on the Audi.
Yeah.
The Audi is at the front on that front quarter, and also on the driver's side.
So I wonder if Tesla's going to do longer cables when they do this adapter change, or it's just going to be what it'll be.
No, they didn't in Europe. There's a when you log in, it says be courteous. So we'll see what happens.
All of a sudden, the trailer spots could be perfectly positioned for this. Now that I think about it, because they're always the spots that they have for pulling in. If you have a trailer, leaving the trailer on the back, those are actually going to be on the right side for us.
Yeah, yes and no. So I've seen some trailer spots where the trailer spots have actually been on the far side, which doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're looking at the superchargers, it's on the left. And that's never made sense to me, because that means if you wanted to keep your trailer on, you either back your trailer into the spot and turn yourself, or you just block 2 or 3 superchargers with your trailer. And I will say, and I know because there's pictures of it, when I was doing my first road trip, remember that golden age when there was no queue for chargers? And when I did that when you were doing yours, when I was following you essentially across the country in the ID4, there was a lot of the time, because I had the bikes on the back, I didn't bother backing up. I just came in at a diagonal and just said, okay. And I never met anyone, so it wasn't an issue. I can't imagine doing
I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if Tesla drags their feet a little bit on this, because they've just gave out all these 10,000 mile, gave everyone that bought at the end of December 10,000 free miles. So I've noticed chargers here are actually fairly full already. And now I think they're doing a promotion. I'm not sure if they're still doing it right now, but I saw if you're buying a Model S or X, you can basically either take $3,000 off of the price of the car or get free supercharging. So the more free supercharging that they continue to pump out, that results in full chargers. And the number one way to upset the Tesla community would be to open it up and create even busier chargers.
I don't know, Joe. I mean, the thing is, how someone has got the data. Well, Tesla's got the data. How much do people charge at a supercharger versus charging at home? I mean, and I've thought about, I have free charging with the ID4, and yeah, that's great on a road trip, but rarely. Like, I'll do it occasionally. I will take, the fat charge, up to 40%, 45%. Sometimes I will, if I go up to the city, if I'm so I might go up to the city tonight. So that's, so I would be, I don't know what the charge in the car is right now. It's probably got like 150, 160 miles on it. So I'll come home and it'll be in the 20% of the teens. Sometimes there is a Electrify America, just it's like a half-mile diversion on my way home. I might plug in there. and I'll take the fat charge. Then I'll come home and finish charging up to 80%. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm feeling particularly through. I usually do it out of a sense of guilt because I've done something bad.
So for me, it's I'll use. So there's an area I go out to eat, which is where my EA stations are, and if they're empty, I would happily go plug in and go and eat dinner because I'm not bothering anyone. What amazes me though is there's multiple times I've gone over there where all 3 chargers are full, and 2 or 3 cars are in line, and of course all 5 or 6 cars have Illinois plates. And I've even made small talk with some people that are just going there to get their daily, or bi-weekly charge because they want to get the free juice. That's where the way I'm wired, the $4 of electricity isn't worth an hour of my time. But yeah.
So here's the thing, and I'm trying to get the Photos app up on my laptop while I talk to you. So I shot an episode of Comedians in Cars Going to a Gig with Clayton Mosley last on Wednesday. I did Roast Battle in Sacramento with which was great fun. And I'm just pulling up the picture right now. Where are you? I didn't do a picture. I did it as a video. Naturally, I did it as a video. Well, we charged our ID4 up to 95% while getting dinner. Here. Okay, so this person had a Golf. They plugged in somewhere close to 70%, charged it to 100%, and had left their car plugged in, charging, and had been idle for 66 minutes. This was in the evening, downtown Sacramento. Now, this is when I plugged in. Clayton said at the time, what we did is we shot up to Sacramento. Now, it was kind of heavy on the juice, plus it was raining. And I wanted to get enough juice to be able to full tilt it back because it was going to be late. We weren't going to leave until, normally we don't get out of there till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I had to drive him all the way back to San Francisco and then myself from San Francisco at home. I was going to get in at 1:30 in the morning. Yeah, remember that, people. I do all this stupid for 6 minutes of stage time. It's crazy. Anyways, the punchline. It's special. I wouldn't do it for I would do that for very few other places. We plugged in Clint. So this was my first time in the ID4 in anger for a while. And I have to say, I was very happy because it did actually go up to full speed charging. It did go recently with the winter weather and the fact that I don't often, if I am supercharging, I don't drive it supercharged. Talk about the wrong use of the word. Whatever. It's like using a Hoover instead of a vacuum. I will not get. I've been getting worried about my car. It's been topping out at 83 with us because I'm just not getting the pack hot enough. I'm getting it low enough, but not hot enough in the process. So I pulled in, and yeah, it went straight to 126. And Clayton said, "I said, right, we're going to go find something to eat." We went to a place called Paisanos. We ordered some appetizers and a drink. And by the time we'd eaten them and walked back, it was at 90%. He was like, I didn't realize. It was so nice to show somebody who drives a truck that it really is that quick and efficient. And sure enough, when we got back, that thing was still there. It was now 66 minutes plus whatever my charging time was, which was probably like 35 minutes.
Do we know if they actually bill for the idle? Because I've heard a rumor that they sometimes don't.
Apparently not. And apparently there's a billing issue and a thing, and EA needs to pull their finger out and actually start punishing people. And I use the word very good. I don't care. Unless you're in a wheelchair and it's icy, there is no excuse for being a selfish prick. Wow, I mean, that was quite forthright. I don't think there was any fence. I was sitting on the middle there, Joe. Do you think? I think there was... I don't believe, like Tom does, Malogny does, that they should stop doing free charging with cars. And that's because we're still trying to convert people to the process, and some people do not have, cannot get fast charge, cannot get level 2 charging at home or their apartment or whatever.
I'm a big fan of what Tesla's doing of the 10,000 miles. You get an arbitrary amount of electrons, and if you choose to burn through them right away, you know, kind of. I mean, Ford did that. They just didn't give enough.
The Audi did. Yeah, the Audi. You know, I'll actually use some of them up because I don't fast charge the Audi too often for one reason or another. The Audi comes with 200 kilowatts of juice, and I've still not used. I still I think it's like 40 or 50 kilowatts left on it. So I'll use them on the trip. We're going to go to Fresno next weekend, and then the weekend after, I'm going to go down to San Diego in the Audi. So, in fact, the Audi's getting a roof box. Well, actually, it's got the same roof box I've got, but last night I ordered the rails for the Audi. So it's going to be a good video. What happens when you make the Hippo bigger?
Well, it's still getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour. That's what we know. Is no matter how you drive it, it will get 2 miles per kilowatt hour.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Don't ruin the epilogue yet. But I'm going to rip. I'm looking. So here's the thing that's interesting about that trip. You okay? You're stretching. Okay. We're not doing this for clickbait. This is just what had to happen. We want him to live. That's it, buddy.
But he will get used in the screenshot, the thumbnail for the video, right?
I don't do that. I just use our faces. I don't care about. I'm not. Here's the thing. I might work in marketing, but I don't care enough to do a good job. He's kind of cute. Right? Maybe we'll insert a picture of him at the end. So what is interesting is that a number. I will be going to Kettleman, which is a crucial piece of infrastructure for the I-5 corridor. This is south of so because I turned the Photos app on my laptop, now it has to resynchronize everything on my phone, apparently. Silent mode. I'm going to get, which is south of Harris Ranch. So then that's a key piece of infrastructure. But what I also noticed as I was looking, that a number of other sites that I would normally be going to have all been upgraded to the new EA chargers. So this will be my first opportunity to see them. What's interesting is there are a number of EA chargers being installed locally that have not been switched on, and they've been in the ground for months. I mean, some of them more than 6 months. One of Coleman near San Jose Airport has the brand new chargers. They were installed before anything else. The one in Baker that went live while you guys were driving down there, I'm sure that wasn't a coincidence. They were in the ground here back then, and they've still not been switched on. That site's never gone live. What's really interesting is that the big tenant for that mall area actually disappeared. It was a big Lowe's that got shut down. Either the Lowe's or Home Depot. And it is now a massive, I don't know what to call it. It's like the party city of shitty furniture. I don't know. Anyway.
I wonder if it's some sort of like marketing gig they're doing of like, okay, they want to turn on a certain amount of chargers every few months. And so by having them in the ground, they're ready, they can say, oh, we put, 100 more chargers online this quarter, whatever the marketing employees. Because I know they're trying to get financing, at this time.
But what I will say is, you mentioned it just before, is that they have this week increased prices for charging. So pricing goes from goes up to 43 kilowatts. Oh, they've raised it by 0.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which, given the fact that this is the first major increase in years and the rate of inflation isn't that bad. Plus, if you have Pass Plus pricing, obviously you'll still get your discount off that. So Electrify America nationwide is still quite often the best value. You get some regional little good value things along the way when you get to Portland and Oregon, where they have lots
especially
of
all the minute. Anytime you find the per minute chargers, those you make a fortune off those.
Well, as soon as you head east, they're fancy with a car that charges as fast as the Audi. Hell, I was filling that thing for $4. It was nuts.
It's cheaper. Illinois charges by the kilowatt hour, but the states that are per minute, it would be cheaper for me to DC charge than to charge at home.
So, yeah, prices go from 43 to 48 cents per kilowatt, and per minute will go from 16 to 19 cents up to 90 kilowatts, and 32 to 47 up to 350. Pass Plus members will see an increase of 4 cents per kilowatt from 31 to 36. So that there's still, fantastic value compared to most of the other people. Unfortunately, it's still let down by the reliability of the network. That remains the biggest issue.
And I don't think it's Electrify America specifically. I think that there's many of EV Go's out there that are having problems. I've even run into charge points, which normally have a good reasonable reputation for being reliable, and I've run into those with issues too lately. So it's kind of just.
I think this winter has been a hard test. I think a lot of lessons are being learned about this. The one thing which I really which hadn't been given enough publicity, and I wasn't. This was announced in January 30th. Is that Electrify America has teamed up with TA, also known as Travel Centers of America. So if you see that, it's the blue and red people. They are going to deploy DC fast chargers at 200 of their sites. As usual, a mixture of 150s and 350s.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't remember if it was Love's, Pilot, or Flying J, but one of them partnered with EV Go, so it makes sense that yeah,
they did. They haven't published a map as yet of where this will be, but this is interesting. I will say that so the TA closest to me, anybody down on I-5 at the I-5 and 152 turnoff, Los Banos. I did a little mini video in my channel. They have they had some of the FreeWire units there. So that's the one with the battery built in that runs off the standard 3-phase for charge up and regeneration. So, but this is a good thing because, that is the biggest frustration is when, so I'm looking at I will have to charge, when I head to San Diego, I will charge at Kettleman. I can stretch it to Kettleman. It's like 182. I can do that. And then I will charge near the Camp America, the bottom of Santa Clarita, basically, the bottom of the Grapevine on the LA side. And, it's in a mall, which is great during hours. But as soon as you're out of hours, then you've no services. And there's nothing worse than having to charge and then stop 5 minutes later to hit the bathroom and grab a coffee or whatever. So this has to be a good thing. It really does. It didn't get a lot of publicity, this announcement, so we're doing.
This could be actually great. There's a brand new TA about 45 miles west of here, halfway between where I live and Rockford. And the charger here is always pretty busy and has a line. And the charger in Rockford is always pretty busy. So in theory, by putting this one in the middle should help alleviate some of the pain between both of them if this is one of the locations that's getting one.
Well, let's hope. But let's be honest. We all want to see the 80 loop closed. I know you've got a time thing, Joe, so I'm conscious of that. Otherwise, I'd be firing up PlugShare and looking at the coming soon section right now.
Speaking of the free charging and EA, all of that, I'd be very interested to know. I'm sure the data's out there. Within the brands. How much did Volkswagen have to spend to get the charging for everyone versus how much did everyone use? Obviously we use a lot more than most people that just buy their electric vehicle to commute to and from work and do their charging at home. So it'd be interesting to know, did that work out to be a good marketing ploy, or would it have been better to slash the price on the vehicle by a couple thousand?
That's for a market analyst to do. I'm looking. Oh, oh, Joe, we missed an announcement. We missed an announcement, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it's possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that right now, as of I'm looking for all the check-ins. There's been 29 check-ins. Let's see when the first one was. December the 17th, and oh my God, it was a Tesla Model Y of all things. But Joe, Rawlins is open.
So does that complete the state then?
No, because Cheyenne is still not online. They're putting Cheyenne in at the same target as the
right now.
Supercharger.
Cheyenne has a Harley dealership, so there's a 25 kilowatt charge point unit there. So it is possible.
If you want to, you can use a level 2 charger at my wife's best friend's house, and sleep overnight in the barn with Flick, the pony. They don't mind. They're on PlugShare. I gotta see how far is it between Everston and Rawlins. Oh, Joe, 208 miles.
So as long as the wind is the right way.
Well, that's the thing. That could be 208 miles at 55 miles an hour and not a penny more with a full. I mean, you wouldn't leave.
It might actually be downhill that direction. So that might help.
It doesn't matter. With that wind, it doesn't matter.
What's the city that's in the middle? There's actually a bunch of level 2 charging there that is like at least a security blanket. Yeah.
At Rock Springs. Yeah, at Rock Springs, you've got the motor. You've got a load of Tesla destination.
I've used them there. They work great. Used them with the ID4 when I was on my way to the Tetons.
How the hell did you get to that?
I went through Colorado, across all those the Quick Trip gas station.
Oh, you did the thing through Vernal and Dinosaur and all that
and then
stuff.
Went up north, and literally that was a showing up to a town, and if these destination chargers don't work properly, I was SOL. And so slept there overnight, got the charge, and made it up to Jackson to use their free DC chargers that are in the parking garage.
Yeah, it's still showing. So the Rock Springs will be in. So as of January the 8th, there's no signs of construction, according to Steve with the Ford Mustang Marquee. But apparently, Ezra says it will be there in spring 23. So good luck.
It's very head scratching how. Well, I think if you look at the map, I think there's some. As you scratch your head too, how it's not gone in a row either direction. It's been like a charger in the middle. I think like Rapid City got one, for example, or Casper, Wyoming, somewhere like way up in the middle of nowhere.
We talked about it. It was Casper got it first, and there was another one in the middle
like Gillette
of
or something,
nowhere.
I think got one. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, these are, it's coming too. I that is gonna. I mean, how often would I road trip across the country? Not that often. Any cute. But it is. You know what? It'd be nice to be. It means that people that live there can actually buy these vehicles. Let's be real about this. This improves the marketability of these vehicles in Salt Lake City, because whilst there are, I mean, I'm looking at the map right now, there's 30, 40 DC fast chargers of varying quality and speed between Provo and Brigham City. But, if you want to go east, Everston is as far as you can go.
Which we have gone.
The one in Vernal, yes. The one in Vernal is actually out of commission right now.
Oh, wow.
It's actually broken. So you would have to get all the way to Dinosaur if you wanted to not to take 70. If you wanted to take 40, you have to get all the way to Dinosaur. And you and I spoke to a guy about that, right? He had a Chevy Bolt.
Sorry.
Didn't you and I speak to somebody who lived out there when we were in Salt Lake City?
I think that was right. Yeah, I think there was someone who's charging at the when we were there doing the on-site podcast or something like that. Yeah, when I had gone, what's pretty bad about that is when I'd gone to Vernal.
The Tesla driver, and the Tesla driver who parked in the Electrify America charging space in a massive Walmart, in a Sam's Club or whatever it was, with 3,000 spaces, and he said, "Oh, well, this is where the EVs charge park." Yeah,
yeah, and he claimed that he parked there because he was going to try to charge. Then when he found out he couldn't, he was like, "Oh well," and then walked into the store. So that was great.
Yeah, and he'd rented it from Hertz. It was a wide performance. So yeah.
Oh,
and
I learned a little bit more about that. I don't really recommend the rentals. Apparently, you have to return them with 70% juice.
You do.
So that actually becomes an inconvenience if you don't have a level 2 solution wherever you're staying.
No, it doesn't take that long to. The thing is, it's just not good if you're doing a quick drop at the airport. It means you have to plan ahead. But if you're not, there's plenty of. I mean, around here that's not an issue. But if you're renting a vehicle in, I don't know, Billings, Montana, it might be a problem. But it'll become less of an issue. I'm just looking at all the other things we were going to talk about today, Joe, and you'll be pleased to know we've got to the end of the list. But these are interesting things. So what we know about, Joe, let's do a quick thing. A Model 3. Any more Polestar videos to come out? What's next on your channel?
So I still have. So this week I'll be at the Chicago Auto Show. So I'll be covering anything going on over there. I do still have a 3-episode road trip when I went to Disney, which is relevant because it was my sister and her husband first experience electric vehicle road tripping. So get to see how that went for them. And also I did a 10,000 mile review of the vehicle kind of right after that trip, right before I sold it. So I have 4 more Polestar videos to put up. And then I'll have some content from the auto show to go over before getting into Tesla content, just because the auto show will probably be a little more pressing and relevant to get those out quick. What about you?
Nothing. I'm just trying to get on top of some editing stuff right now, but there will be an episode so I'll publish it on my channel and on regular EV Dad, but I'll also be starting a new channel for this content. Hopefully there's going to be more comedians and literally we're just talking shit in a quiet studio car environment on our way to a gig. So I've been trying to get this going for a while, but now we have more stuff going on, so that'll be interesting. And then I will be we're going to take the family, so we'll have the roof box going on sometime this week, so the rails and the roof box. We're going to Fresno next weekend just for the day, for a dog show. Not for us, actually, but for the kiddo. The kiddo's going to be showing at Pee-wee's, which is kind of cool. This is the fun stuff. And then you can't go yet. You're not ready. Yeah. And then, and if you have a suggestion for the puppy's name that's EV related, then put it in the comments. Okay? Isn't he cute? He's just chilling out. And then what was the other thing? And then, the big thing, obviously. So the wife's flying out to Austin to see some friends for us. Unofficially, and I can say this because she doesn't listen to the podcast. Our friends are doing a sales job on her to convince her to let us move out to Austin. So I fully support this move. And then I will be. They're going to fly into San Diego, and I'm going to drive into San Diego from NorCal. So that'll be a fun little 8-hour drive with charging in the Audi. So I don't mind driving the Audi long distances. It's a very, very comfortable. Although I will say the ID4 Travel Assist is better. It's cleverer. It is. The Audi smoother, the ID4 smarter.
I'm considering whether I want to subscribe to FSD for a month. I think I probably will, but I'll probably do that since I have that trip.
I think the fact that Elon has just said that there will be no hardware upgrade from FSD 3 to FSD 4, that would tell me I should only rent it if I need it for long road trips. Otherwise, that is software, and there is a reason. You do this for accountants. There's a reason why you can write software off at 100% value, because it has no value the next day. It does not have depreciating value. It is buy it and use it. So those are just my thoughts. Joe has his own.
I think that I will do a FSD tax deduction next year.
There you go. For me, I will say goodbye, good night, good evening. And Joe,
take care until next time.
Have fun, boys and girls. See you down the road.